In today's video, I'm going to be looking at the reasons for changes in the number of people employed in different economic sectors. This is for the IGCSE geography specification, and I've highlighted in the economic activity and energy section where that is relevant. So, one of the most important things to understand is that the number of people employed in an economic sector can change over time. Here I've shown a reduction in the amount of people working in a primary industry. This can be due to location factors that change, which we looked at in the last video, but also can be due to a whole host of other factors, which I'm going to discuss in this video. First thing I'm going to look at is a change in raw materials. So in the UK, in the Industrial Revolution, we saw heavy industry grow up around the big coalfields and iron ore deposits that were found naturally in the UK. So places like South Wales, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, Sheffield, Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast, all were very close to those deposits and therefore became big manufacturing centres. What was needed was a lot of labour in the primary sector in things like mining to extract the resources, which were then sent into the manufacturing sector to be processed into goods. What happens over time, though, is those raw materials get depleted, and when they run out or become very expensive to extract, then less people are needed in those sectors. So we see a decline in the amount of people that are working in mining, and then as a knock-on effect, we see less people working in manufacturing because there are less available raw materials at a cheap price. So this is an example where raw materials can change, and therefore that changes the amount of people working in a sector like the primary sector. We also see changes in terms of location of manufacturing due to technological changes. So here we've got a massive gas pipeline being installed in the UK, and we've also seen the kind of advance in kind of electricity grids, which means that I don't have to be right next to the resources to be able to set up an industry anymore. I can be anywhere in the UK, and that means I have lots more freedom to put my industry wherever the location factors are more suitable, which therefore changes the amount of people that are employed in those sectors in different parts of the country. So we see kind of regional changes potentially happening over time. Another also factor is the fact is we can also now ship resources from other countries. So even less people are needed in primary in places like the UK because we can just get the resources from abroad. The Langeled pipeline is a pipeline from Norway to UK that transports gas, which means we just get it from Norway without having to extract it ourselves. I'm now going to look at globalization. So globalization is something that's happened since that Industrial Revolution period, where the economies of the world are becoming increasingly interconnected. This means that there are maybe some other places in the world where it's cheaper to manufacture the goods that we would traditionally have made here. Kind of labour costs are cheaper, lots of raw materials, transport improvements. Places like Brazil, South Korea, China, Mexico are all examples of those places. Therefore, all the goods that we used to make in places like Germany and Western Europe and the UK, those manufacturing jobs have moved from developed countries to emerging countries. We call this the global shift in manufacturing. So this is an example where a process like globalization has shifted the number of people employed in a sector in developed countries, but also it's changed the numbers of people working in emerging countries where there's been a big growth. Globalization also allows countries to focus on their economic strengths so they can specialise. So here on the left, Jamaica focuses very much on tourism because it's got beautiful beaches and a wonderful climate. South Korea, one of the things it focuses on is on car manufacturing because it's got lots of good raw materials and a very good semi-skilled workforce. So therefore, globalization is one of those things that has therefore impacted the number of people employed in each sector in those kind of places. Now I'm going to talk about new technology. One of the most significant things that's changed in the last 100 years is that there's been rapid advances in transport technology, and therefore this alters where economic activity is located. So if I was going to the UK to Australia in the 1800s, it would have taken me months by some sort of sail or steamboat. Now, because technology has improved and we have aeroplanes, I can travel to Australia in less than 24 hours. So this technology has meant that the world is much better connected and seems much closer. It's what we call a global village. Even though the distances haven't actually changed, it seems much closer. On the back of this, it's not just been transport technology, but telecommunications has improved. We have satellites, mobiles, the internet. That means I can send data and information rapidly to the other side of the world in seconds. This is really important because it basically means that those kind of technological improvements mean that I can relocate certain economic activity to other bits of the globe, maybe where the location factors are more favourable, and this therefore impacts employment levels in sectors in those places. So you might have places where employment levels go up, where in one sector, in another part of the world that means they go down. Technology also can affect specific sectors, so agriculture can be very affected by new technology. Here's an example of mechanization. This is where things like tractors and combine harvesters replace that kind of manual workers we saw in that last picture. And all of those manual workers are therefore released from agriculture and can move into other sectors, in, for example, the secondary sector or the tertiary sector. This doesn't just happen in agriculture. We also something have containerization. This is the idea that we are now shipping goods in these big containers. We put them on trucks or trains, transport them around in a country, and then we use a crane to put them onto a big container ship so we can export them internationally. This will obviously is a technological advancement. All these containers are the same shape, so it can be easily transported. And that means that will impact employment in things like shipping. This is traditionally how it had been done. So now I've got these big container ships and I've got big cranes to move them across. I don't need as many dock workers. These are what we call stevedores, who would have to have shifted the products by either hand or by cart. And so therefore, I'm seeing a reduction in this sector in shipping and moving the actual goods onto a ship. Because of technological advancements. Technological advancements can also lead to new opportunities for employment. So I talked about the growth of computers and the internet, and as they've come in the last 30, 40 years, they have a whole new range of services which provide jobs. And I've given some examples here: broadband providers, IT technicians, software engineers, online services, shopping especially. These are all things that have come off the back of new technology being put in place, so they've created new jobs and therefore more people move into that sector, all of these being service-based jobs. The last kind of two areas to discuss is demographic change. So we see that the structure of a population and the age of a population can change, and this can create new opportunities in terms of employment. So in the UK, we have an ageing population, but also we all have more women working in economic activity than we did 50 years ago. One example of how this has changed, because we've got an ageing population, we need more services to support the elderly. So an example would be care homes. There's a whole range of care homes up and down the country that support the elderly. But also you get specialist services. So here's an example of Saga Holidays. They are a booking company for elderly people to go on holidays specifically for them. And therefore that is a service that has only come about because there's been more and more older people who want to go on holiday. We also would say the fact that more UK families than ever, both parents work, and because of that, they need to have more childcare services, nannies, nurseries, creches. So that has only come about as a social change, as more women have been joining the workforce and more both parents are working in full-time employment. The last thing is to talk about governments. So governments also have a key role in how many people are employed in each sector. They can implement policies, but more importantly, they can invest money into areas which they think are important for growth. And when they invest into a certain sector, that can provide new jobs. A good example in the UK is the fact that they're investing in carbon capture technology. This is in the quaternary sector. It needs a lot of research and development to actually work. They're doing this to try and reduce carbon emissions. Also another sector which is a lot of research and development is agri-tech, so technology for agriculture. So because the government is investing a lot of money in this, in the quaternary sector, we're going to see increased employment. But that's only because the government has made a specific goal to do that in the UK.